Hello, everybody. My name is Amber Lopez, and I am Cruz's wife, your personal trainer. And I wanted to jump on, and this is my very first video here. I am a certified life and weight coach. And so I'm going to be creating videos to help you with your weight loss goals and your fitness goals. Let's talk about how to stop stress eating without using willpower. So without hiding the food. I know that that's something that I've always done is when our daughter Olivia started wanting snacks that I didn't want to eat, but found myself eating, I found myself hiding them, putting them on a lower shelf where I couldn't see them. And then that kept me from eating them. And there were times when I just wouldn't buy things, so I didn't have it. But we're going to learn how to be around food and be okay with being around food and be able to not eat it without using the willpower. So from a very young age, we have been taught that negative emotions are bad. Stop crying. Why do you feel that way? Don't feel that way. Why are you upset? Don't be upset. And so we think that we need to be happy all the time. And so when an emotion comes up that is bad, we think that we need to be happy. And so we try to cover it up. We haven't been taught how to deal with these emotions, how to process these emotions. And so we look to false pleasures like food to help us to feel better. Today, good news, all you need is yourself and your brain, and you can stop stress eating. So I want you to first think about the last time that you felt a negative emotion, that you were stress eating, in order to try and feel better. And I'd love to hear what emotions come up for you all. So go ahead and type them in the comments. And then I'm curious, did the stress eating work? Did it make you feel better? Did it accomplish the goal that you were trying to feel? How did you feel while you were stress eating? How did you feel afterwards? One of the emotions that I used to feel quite frequently was anxiousness. And I would oftentimes try to cover it up by eating, so stress eating. And I remember a time when there was a bag of chips. I felt anxiousness. I grabbed a chip. Before I knew it, it was chip after chip after chip after chip, because I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling any better, so let me just grab another one, which it didn't work. I didn't feel good during it, or maybe I thought I did for a little bit, and then as soon as I was done, like, okay, I don't feel any better, so it definitely wasn't worth it. And so then I finally stopped. I probably took the bag, or probably even finished it. Let's talk about, why do we do that? Today we're going to talk about why we buffer. So when I say buffer, what I'm referring to is seeking false pleasure, in this case food, to help us to feel better or to cover up those negative emotions. The next thing we're going to talk about today is common ways that we usually manage these urges. So when we are feeling a negative emotion and we have an urge to grab food to cover it up, how do we typically manage those? And then we'll get to the solution. How do we go about stop stress eating without using willpower? So the first one is why we buffer. Why do we seek these false pleasures? Why do we go and grab food when we're feeling a negative emotion? Well, we think that we need to be happy all of the time. That's what we've been taught. But life can actually be better without these false pleasures. So let's talk about what life can be like when we stop using these false pleasures and we stop buffering. When we stop buffering, when we stop grabbing food to cover up those negative emotions, we experience natural pleasures. We experience the pleasure of eating food for fuel rather than feeling sick after eating something that wasn't great for us. We experience the pleasure of not worrying about our weight. We learn how to deal with upset differently, so we don't just head for the ice cream. We gain confidence And when we gain confidence, that begets more confidence, which just gets more confidence. And then we feel more empowered and we have a better well-being. And when our well-being is at its best, then we have more to give to the world. So when we are at our ultimate happiest, we're able to be the best version of ourselves and contribute to the world. We also learn how to feel and process these emotions that we're trying so desperately to escape. But that emotion is important. It has important information to tell us, and it's telling us what we're thinking. And that's for another video. We'll go deeper into that later. But right now we have two options of what we want to believe. One, on the one hand, we can believe that we should always be happy, and then we use buffers to try and stay that way. Or on the other hand, we can recognize that our emotions are 50-50. We'll experience positive emotions 50% of the time, and we'll experience negative emotions 50% of the time. And those emotions really should be listened to so that we can manage ourselves emotionally and cognitively. So do you believe that you should always be happy and use buffers to try to stay that way? Or do you recognize that life is 50-50 and our emotions should be listened to so that we can manage them emotionally and cognitively? All right, so now we know why we buffer. So what are some of the common ways that we manage our urges when we are feeling negative and we feel the desire to go get food? What do we do? Well, there are three things that most of us usually do. We usually resist, avoid, or react. So when we resist, we're trying to push it away. Push it away like a big beach ball. So imagine you have this big beach ball and you're taking it and you're trying to push it underwater. You can hold it underwater for a certain amount of time, and then as soon as you let go, it just comes right back up. That's what it's like when we resist our urges for food. It just comes back stronger. We also try to avoid them, maybe not buying the food, hiding it, walking past that coworker's office and not going in. And then we also react to it. So when we react, we just obey the urge. We give in, we eat the food. So I'm curious, let me know in the comments, what do you usually do? Resist, react, avoid, something else? All right, so we know why we buffer. We know ways that most people usually manage those urges. So let's get to the good stuff, the solution. The solution is to allow the urges. And I'll talk more about that here shortly. But when we allow the urges, it allows us to be around the food. It helps us to not get mad because the husband brought home food, the child brought home food, and we were doing so good and we don't want to eat it, but now it's there and so we eat it. I don't know, can anybody relate? So we allow the urge. And what that looks like is, I love how one of my coaches, Rachel Hart, uses, I don't know what it's called, so she plays on stop, drop, and roll. And so she says, stop, drop, and breathe. And so stop, drop, and breathe. And so this is something you can post a sign on your cabinet, on your refrigerator. So when you're feeling those urges and you are going to the kitchen for food, that it could be a reminder and you stop. So just literally stop what you're doing, stop going for the cabinet, just stop. Then drop and give me 20 right now. That's probably what Cruz would tell you, but when I say drop inside yourself, drop inside your body. So the first thing to do is to name your emotion. And this might be harder than you think. A lot of times we don't know the emotion that we're feeling. Oftentimes when we ask somebody, how do you feel? They most of the time don't give us an emotion. They give us a thought. So you try to name the emotion, It might be desire, boredom, anxiety, whatever it is. Try to name it. And then you could step outside your body and kind of notice, where are you feeling this and what are you feeling? And really try to describe it. So an emotion that I have been feeling most often is nervousness. So I'll just show you how I go about that. So first I identify, I say it's nervousness. I'm like, okay, I feel tingling in my fingers. I feel tingling in my feet. I feel like I have to pee. I feel sweat in my armpits. My heart is beating fast. Yeah. And so that's what mine looks like when I describe my nervousness. And so things you can be thinking about, is there a color that you see with the emotion? Does your body feel like, does the emotion feel fast, slow, soft, hard, heavy, light? Really get in there and take time to do that, because when we do the opposite, when we resist or we avoid, what we're doing is we're really just intensifying the emotion. Because typically, an emotion only lasts about 90 seconds. And so when we take the time and we've really allowed it, a lot of times we don't even feel it anymore, or if we do, it's so light that we don't feel like we need to cover it up. But this process it's simple, but it takes time to learn. It's just like riding a bike. Right now, you probably say riding a bike is simple. But when you were learning to ride a bike, there were probably lots of crashes, falling off, tears. You might cry during this process. That's okay. And so this is the same way. But every time you got back up on that bike, you got stronger and better. And because you kept getting back up on that bike, now riding the bike is super easy. You can go years without riding it and then get on and you still know how to do it. Same thing with this process. It's simple, it's easy, but it takes some time to learn. So give yourself patience and grace and compassion as you're learning this. And so then what I would suggest for you to do is to allow 100 urges. And when I say allow, that means that you have done the stop, drop, and breathe. You've described it in your body, and you haven't eaten the food. Also, you aren't arguing and using willpower. If you're using willpower and resisting and fighting and it feels really hard, then you're not allowing it. Allowing it feels very different. It feels, there's a challenge to it, but it doesn't feel like this intense fight with yourself. So your goal is to allow 100 urges. And our brains like rewards. So we're going to reward it. So what I use for my reward I have this jar and I just put, I don't know what these are, marbles or beads in it. And so every time I allow an urge, I just drop one in here. And so then my brain can see, wow, look at all of the times that you had a desire for food and you allowed that emotion. Look at how many times you've allowed the emotion. Look at how many foods you are not in your body, are not hanging off of your body because you chose to eat them. If you don't have marbles or something, you can probably grab anything that you have 100 of, or you could just get a piece of paper and do tally marks. And your brain will really enjoy the reward. So I'd love to hear how those go. So let me know what questions you have. What I would love for you to walk away with from this is that life can be better without these false pleasures, and that we will be able to enjoy natural pleasures like not worrying about our weight. And I really just encourage you to play with the idea that life is 50-50. Half the time we're going to feel positive emotion, half the time we're going to feel negative emotion. And those emotions should be really listened to and managed. So remember this: stop, drop, and breathe. Write it down, put it on your cabinet, put it on your fridge. Get something tangible so you can allow those 100 urges. Now, if you allow 5 urges, or however many you allow, and then you give in, don't start over. Just keep going. Don't ever start over. And it might be the first 20 urges that you give into. But every time you keep showing up, you keep getting better, right? You've got this. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'd love to hear how the process is going for you, what questions you have. Feel free to comment below the questions that you have as you're doing this process, your comments, how it's going, what's challenging about it, what's going well. I'd love to hear it all. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.